The first reveals for the third overdress booster, plus more clan collection. So let's begin, but like always, cards from last few days. So first, some high rarity cards for Lyrical Monasterio. Contradicting Kindness Virginia. Grade 2, tanky power, is a double rare and skillless. Auto rearguard. At the end of the battle that this card attack while boosted, if you play an order this turn, put this to soul and counter charge 1. Definitely made for the gem deck, but you could always play this with a song deck, I believe. And free resources are always nice. And then for our less deals, we got double rare, Longing for Dreams Burial. Grade 2, tanky power and skillless. Black Wings. Auto, when placed on rearguard, costs Soul Blast 3. For every 2 even grade rearguards, choose one of your opponent's units and that chosen unit gets minus 5k power into the end of the turn. Then, if their power becomes 0, you put it to the bottom of the deck. Keep in mind, Celestial herself, her Black Wing ability decreases your opponent's cards with 5k power each. So this plus that can actually reach it to 0. I say this is okay, but Soul Blast 3 is probably not worth it. And now to Clan Collection. We're gonna start off with the Riser stuff with, of course, Heal Guardian plus reprints. And then we go to Raptor Riser. Grade 1, 8 power and skills. Auto, when placed on Vanguard, choose one Battle Riser from Soul and call it to rearguard. Nice, now we got another card that can call Battle Riser from Soul. Second skill, Auto Rearguard. Once per turn, cost counterblast 1. Put a rearguard to your soul, search your deck for one Riser card that is 1 grade higher than the unit that you put to soul, and call it to rearguard. This is very nice to get your main attackers out, aka your grade 2s and sometimes your grade 3s. And it's also very nice that you can put itself to soul to use this skill, so you could call grade 2 as well. And if you need boosters, well, you got Battle Riser. You can use this card to put that Battle Riser to your soul and then call grade 1 for a booster. And then if you have high power custom, you can recall the Battle Riser from soul. So yeah, very nice new addition to Risers. And then we go to Ultimate Riser Dual Flare. Grade 2, 90 power and skills. Count Vanguard rearguard during turn. If you have no front row rearguard says standing, this card gets plus 3k power for each grade of your opponent's Vanguard. Nice, easy beater. Second skill, Auto Rearguard. At the end of battle that this card attacked, put this to soul, choose one of your Vanguards and it gets plus 5k power into the end of turn, and if your damage zone has no face-up cards, counter charge 1. A guaranteed counterblast is always nice. But what matters about this card is that it actually goes to soul because it actually interacts with Mega Flare. Because Ultimate Riser Mega Flare is a grade 3 12k power Excel unit with the skill of Auto Vanguard. At the end of the battle, your rearguard with Riser and its card name attack costs counterblast 2, rest this unit, stand that and this unit. Okay, counterblast 2 just to stand back that rearguard is not worth it. And I don't get why it has that weird condition to rest itself when you're gonna be standing back up with the same skill. I know there's some cards that activate when a card gets rested, but this is just weird. But the second skill is where it matters. Auto Vanguard. At the end of battle that this card attack, if you have no front row rearguards that stand, cost counterblast 1. Choose a grade 2 Riser from your soul and ride as stand. At the end of the turn, choose a grade 3 Riser from soul and ride as stand. And of course get another Excel marker on top of it because of that. So basically like Excavate the Blaster. The difference is at the moment you got 2 choices, that being Dual Flare and High Power Custom. And this is the reason why it's important for Dual Flare to go to soul, because Mega Flare will swap places with him, especially because Dual Flare guarantees that 1 counterblast for Mega Flare to use that second skill. The first skill doesn't really matter too much, but second skill is indeed decent. The only problem I find with this card is the lack of power, because this card itself doesn't gain power and you're relying on other cards. Now one thing that this card has over Excavate the Blaster, few things that this card has over Excavate the Blaster. 1, you have more targets, and 2, you can ride back to grade 3, which is important for defensive value. Now sometimes that can also be bad, because currently in V we have skills that require your opponent to be as grade 3 as well, so if you're stuck at grade 2, that could probably stop your opponent from playing a skill. But overall, very good addition. And now to Eradicators. Heal Guardian plus reprints. And now we go to Eradicator Demolition Dragon, which is a grade 1 with 8 power and skills. Auto Vanguard rearguard. At the end of battle that this unit attacked or boosted hits, draw a card, and then choose a card from your opponent's drop zone and bind it. If you bound a card while this card is on rearguard, you put it to soul. So it's just attack hit pressure. Luckily it could still activate on Vanguard too to give you that draw, so kinda like Sable Dragon Newt. And then we go to Eradicator Spark Rain Dragon, grade 2, 90 power and skills. Count Vanguard Rearguard during your turn. This card gives plus 1k power for each card in your opponent's bind zone. Very nice. Second skill, Auto Rearguard. At the end of the battle that this unit attacked, cost counterblast 1, choose a column that this unit is on, bind all the front row rear guards, and then put all the back row rear guards to the front in the same column. So this can be very nice for a few things. One, it's non-targeting removal. The other is that this card gives you multi-attack, because you're clearing your own front row unit, aka this card, to move the back row one to the front, meaning you're getting yourself another attack. And if you have Rising Phoenix, well, Rising Phoenix will just call itself. So yeah, and it's also nice that it's generic. Speaking of generic, Eradicator Vowing Sword Dragon's a grade 3 with 12k power and it's Excel, and it's also generic because Auto Vanguard. When your opponent's normal unit is bound other than from deck during your turn, your opponent searches for one card with the same card name as that bound card and bind it. And then this unit gets plus 5k power into the end of the turn, and if there were no units bound, it's 10k instead. So you're basically doubling the bound. And also, it looks like your deck is no longer safe from binding as well, because deck binding can be quite nasty, especially when it's one of your key cards. But anyway, second skill. Auto, when rolled upon, call this to rearguard, and then choose a card from your opponent's drop zone for every 2 cards in your damage zone and bind it. So basically up to 2 cards. I mean, this card doesn't really do much other than deck destruction, and this card can also be a generic setup card for your other Narukami boss units, but overall this card doesn't really do much, even for the archetype that is in. And now for the Tuesday stream. We got support for Magnolia and Prison, so let's start off with the Prison cards. With Aurora Battle Princess Survey Vermilion. It's a grade 2 with 10k power and skills. Auto rearguard once per turn. When your opponent's card is placed on rearguard from your order zone, soul charge 1. So basically when your opponent pays a fine to release them from prison, you get a soul charge. So this card is literally surveilling them. Now so far soul isn't really much of an issue for your prison deck despite how much soul they use, and that's because one of the main factors is that your prison card gives you a soul charge 3 immediately. But it's very nice to see more cards that will interact when your opponent releases their cards from their prison, because it could make them wish they didn't. And then we go to Aurora Battle Princess Execute Lemonin. Execute. Okay. Grade 3, 13 power and skills. Auto rearguard. When this card attacks, cost counterblast 1, soul blast 3, choose 3 of your opponent's rearguards and imprison them. Then if there are 3 or more cards in your prison, into the end of that battle this card gets plus 10k power, and then if there's 5 or more, it also gets 1 crit. Now I'm not sure is this worth running for the soul blast 3, because that's quite a lot of soul, and at most you just only need to put 3 cards to your prison. So who knows, this deck could actually give out a higher prison count, so this card might be needed even more, but at least it's very nice that this is also a attack pressure card, because this is one thing that your prison deck kinda needs. They kinda lack attack pressure. And then for the Magnolia stuff, our first card is an order card, In Search of an Ideal Far Away. Grade 1, it's a normal order, and skill is choose one of your units, and it gets this skill. Auto Vanguard Rearguard. When your other unit attacks, this card gets plus 5k power into the end of turn. And yes, this stacks, and Magnolia has back row attacks, so one of your units could get a huge buff. It's an okay card, but I do see better options. But the next one is very dangerous. Sylvan Hornbeast Gapbray. Grade 2, 10k power and skills. Auto Rearguard. When your other unit in the same column as this unit attacks, cost Soul Blast 1, another Soul Blast. This unit gets plus 10k power in the end of turn, and then choose all your opponent's rearguards. For the battle that this unit attacked, your opponent cannot guard with cards from their hand with the same grades as the chosen units. That can be potentially dangerous, especially if your opponent has a grade 0. And it's also nice that this is very generic because we got an Aqua Force based unit in the same booster, and that one has a similar playstyle to Aqua Force, so we might get unit swapping. So yes, definitely play this. So that's it for these reveals. What do you guys think about the Clan Collection Riser, Vowing Sword, Magnolia, and Prison support? Raizers is very needed, the Eradicators were okay, the Prison stuff were fine, but for Magnolia, that new grade 2 can be devastating. But other than that, have a nice day.